This is Lady Myya. I am here with Jessica Phipps, and she is a astronomically talented individual in the medical field, you guys. And she is such a powered advocate for those that need a little voice. So I'm going to let her kind of go into what she actually does and why.
Okay.
It's
Hi.
simple.
Hi, everyone. And Lady Myya, thank you so much for having me on your show today. Again, I'm Jessica Phipps. My company is called Better Your Living. I am a social worker by profession, specializing in the area of nephrology. So nephrology has to do with the kidneys, with kidney disease. So I work with people who have been diagnosed with kidney disease and also those who have gone on to start dialysis. And that is what happens when your kidneys fail. I've done this for a number of years. I'm not going to tell you my age. So I'm not going to tell you how long I've done it, but I've done it for a very long time. And given that, I was able to recognize some issues. I recognized, first of all, and then data backed it up when I started to do academic research, that African Americans are disproportionately affected by kidney disease, as well as we are diagnosed later, treated later, and also die sooner from kidney disease. So that was part of the reason that I founded my company, Better Your Living, in 2003, in order to help in my own small way to eliminate the disparities, particularly in health literacy that exists in communities of color. A lot of it has to do with health literacy. And when we use the word literacy, we're not talking about, reading and writing or people being stupid, for use of a better word, because I've met many educated individuals, professionals, attorneys and, accountants and other people in those, fields, professional fields. And I've seen them in physicians' offices where I do counseling, and they were unaware that their hypertension and their diabetes would lead to kidney disease. So, and they were unaware of how to manage, the chronic illnesses they had. So in our community, what we're seeing is that we have an educated population, the degrees and the letters and all, but we don't understand how to manage our illnesses. And that is where I come in. So my company, Better Your Living, is a disease self-management company for people with chronic illnesses who have already been diagnosed, to help them to be able to understand their illness, because in order to treat your illness, know how to react, you have to be educated about it, and how to change your lifestyle, because you have to bring about some change in order to thrive. How to change your lifestyle in order to thrive with your illness. And then also, I address those who just want to remain healthy. I also talk about preventative health. Okay? So, how do you not progress to be diagnosed with hypertension? Or how do you not progress to be diagnosed as pre-diabetic or with diabetes? Because remember, we must remember, these are lifestyle illnesses. These are not things that have to happen to us. So in a nutshell, that is what I do. But you can always check my website. It's www.betteryourliving.com.
Yes, girl, honey, I got some questions. I got some questions because a lot of people fail to realize the importance of these things. Of course, everybody's telling us we got to eat right, we got to exercise, we got to do all these different things, but I'm finding that the mindset doesn't stick around as long. And you and I had a conversation before in regards to having someone, helping you stay accountable for what it is that you're trying to do as far as being healthier and staying healthier for a longer period of time.
Mhm.
It's harder to do it by yourself. To do it
Yes.
with someone is very important. So, you know what? If you want to shed some light or at least tell my viewers about that conversation.
Okay, so we have to realize that anything that has to do with change, you're accustomed to doing things a certain way. And if you have to change that, what would have now become a habit, which may not have been a healthy habit, we do need support, whether it's professional support or support from just a peer who is trying to do the same thing, but support is always needed. the big part of it is once you educate people, so somebody, let's say, is hypertensive, and you educate them and you say, okay, so, you have to consume less sodium, whatever contains sodium, preserved foods, canned foods, as well as, table salt, you've got to cut back. So they know this. And you have to take your medication the way it's scheduled. You're scheduled to take it. However, there is an art in moving from knowing to doing. Exactly. So a lot of these individuals who are non-compliant with chronic illnesses, they can tell you, they can lay out the law of the land of, how things should be, what they're supposed to take and how they're supposed to take it. But in many cases, they may not know the red flags for, the illness becoming worse, becoming chronic, or, they're having, really bad symptoms. They may not be able to identify those, as well as they have not mastered the art of changing habits and changing lifestyle in order to thrive. For instance, if you thought, well, I'm going to save money, so I'm going to pack a lunch, okay? Not a bad idea. However, I'm buying cold cuts. I'm at the deli counter buying cheese and cold cuts so that I can make sandwiches to take to work. It's easy and I'm saving money. However, if this is what I've done for a long period of time, and it's easy to really fix it in the morning, or I could put it together at night, put it in the refrigerator, and now I'm hypertensive, I would then now have to change that. Okay, so what am I going to pack for lunch? You now have to rework what you're doing. So you had that down pat, but now you're going to have to be looking at packing a different kind of lunch. Whether it's a smaller sandwich and more salad, cutting out those, processed meats for a long while, or maybe looking at buying the low sodium version of the deli meats as well as the low sodium version of the cheese, or moving from that, like, sharp cheddar that is delicious to the provolone or the Swiss that is not as nice, but it's there.
Like the baby Swiss, yes.
Mm-hmm. Right. So it's about making those changes, not only in taste, but in what you're going to prepare. So now you're transitioning to making a salad, which is a little time consuming, okay? It's not as easy as making a sandwich. If you're doing this in the morning, that's an extra 15 minutes, okay? Unless you then prep it at night, or you cut up all your lettuce and your tomatoes or whatever, and you store it for a couple of days. But the bottom line of it, I think you get the gist. Once you decide to change your diet or change your habits in order to become more compliant or adherent to a treatment regime, your lifestyle has to change, as well as that of your family. Because if this was something you're buying and mom is fixing it, dad is fixing it, and the kids are getting it for lunch, now we're not going to be doing that anymore. Mm-hmm. So everybody has to change habits. And it's a good thing. And one of the things we have to also make note of as adults, when we recognize that we have a lifestyle illness like hypertension or diabetes, it's not only about us changing. It's about, if you have younger members of the family in the home, it's about getting them to change early enough. Because you know what? It's lifestyle, it's learned behavior. They're going to get it. That's how people say, hypertension runs in my family or diabetes runs in my family. The actual illness, yes, in some cases it's genetic and things run in families like type 1 diabetes, but type 2, no. It's all because we all have the same habits. Because this is how I grew up. So we've been doing the same thing. So that is how it happens to, run in families. And that is how it happens to the wife is diabetic, the husband is diabetic. Fast forward 20 years, the kids are also diabetic. Okay. So habit change is really, bottom line is habit change is really important. And as a health coach, that is something that I also do, not only educating you, but working with you, helping you to become accountable, working with you long enough to create a habit of change, whereby we find the easiest change method that fits your lifestyle. Work with you to make the changes, and then, hopefully have it as a habit, stick with you, and then let you go. And hopefully you're going to thrive. However, you can always come back and we can always do check-ins and to ensure that you are continuing to thrive and you are continuing to use the methods that were instituted. Or maybe things have changed, you have moved, or you have acquired a different taste for things. We can always work with whatever changes you need to make, because within all of this, you have to meet yourself where you are, so to speak. It's not about changing, one day waking up and revamping everything if you get a chronic illness. It's about, okay, what do I need to avoid now? What do I need to limit? And how do I wean myself into this to make it happen and make it for the long haul? Because remember, it's not a crash diet. It's a lifestyle change.
Yes, and I mean the mental behind that. A lot of people are like, I'm so used to, and then it comes with, okay, well, when I'm happy, I get happy foods. If I'm sad, I get sad foods. And when you have those different emotions, a lot of people are emotional eaters, and so they kind of steer away for a little while sometimes, and sometimes they just kind of stay there.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, but if we could find a way, and definitely with Better Your Living, that is like the best way to do it, because now you have not only what you're supposed to do, but you have the accountability, and that's the important thing. Sometimes you might have to talk those people off the ledge, Jessica.
Yeah.
Like, come
And
on,
you just hit a
very
really
busy.
yeah, you just hit a really important note there also. There is we also have to look at our health, looking at our mental health and our emotional health.
Yeah.
So looking at how do we keep ourselves distressed? How do we keep ourselves calm? I mean, it's easier said than done. Okay. It's not just like calm, be calm. You don't have a magic wand that you wave and it happens. But creating a methodology, a way of functioning, a way of living that we create calmness in our lives and stabilize our emotions. Because then, if we allow ourselves, and I mean, we're living in the real world, to become too angry, you know, too thirsty, too hungry at times, and all that, and we're not in a straight and stable emotional path, then we would think you would begin to binge eat or do things that we won't regularly do just to satisfy ourselves. And we have to be sure that, again, this is about lifestyle management and how you structure your day and how you structure your time in general, so that these things don't happen. And even if it does, I mean, everybody goes to a party, everybody goes to a happy hour, but who is that coworker or that family member when you're at that happy hour? Who is going to be your accountability buddy? Okay, because remember, it's only in the cartoons you have that, the angel on one side and the devil on the other. So in real life, we need somebody who is going to say, listen, not too much drinks, not too much dessert, and it's not about
Yes.
denial, it's about portion control in many cases.
Yes. Yes.
So who is that person with you who is going to give you that tap and bring you back, reel you in, so to speak? Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I guess for me, and you actually clicked on something for me. Just me personally. When you do go out, like my thing was always just eat all your food because it's not going to be better the next day. But in retrospect, like that's not altogether true. Hey, pack up something, you'll have something to snack on later or
Mm-hmm.
the next day. You can take it with you. And now you got lunch, and so now that portion, okay, so and they said, it shouldn't be no bigger than your fist and all that good stuff. And I'm like, okay, my fist is small, so I gotta make sure it's 2 fists. So I was with it. I was till, I'm like, I got little hands. This not gonna work. I'm gonna need more.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, now I account for my next meal. So now
Right.
I'm not gonna take all of it. I'm going to hold on to something. So now I can enjoy this. And you never know, you guys. I'm telling you, that marinade though,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it tastes better the next day.
the next day. And in order to do that, one of the tips I'll give you is, a lot of times when they bring your full plate and then you say, okay, I'm going to eat half of this and I'm going to have that half to go and they're going to pack it for me. It feels much better when you tell them from the beginning, I'm going to take half and pack the other half for me. So it never gets to your plate. It never gets,
Yeah.
wet with the gravy or the whatever. Nothing else touches it. And then you get your portions not in one container that you left, but then you're going to have, the different items, if they were splitting it in half, in, smaller containers, and it's all neat and nice, and then you plate it the next day. And it feels much better. It feels as though here's my restaurant meal, not leftovers, which makes a difference in how you feel about it.
True. Oh, that's even better. Now, okay, I got a thought to take home. Yay.
Yes.
So, okay, with everything, okay, what should we be looking out for? Because I mean, there's a lot of hypertension, and they give you all types of different things to look out for. But it's just when it's TV, you don't know if you can really trust that.
Mhm.
So
Right. So with hypertension, again, to control our hypertension, in many cases they're looking at 2,200 milligrams of sodium a day. Nobody counts. But at the same time, we don't want to be consuming anything that is high sodium. So what we have to look at from the get-go is limiting processed foods. Processed foods are high in sodium because sodium is the number one preservative. So if you can eat fresh, you want to do that. It's funny, you can eat a granola bar and we would think that is healthy, right? But if you buy loose nuts and you take a handful of loose nuts, let's say you buy the loose nuts, you take a handful of cashews and a handful of peanuts, you throw some raisins in there, right? Or some dates, you cut up some dates and you make your own mix. All that is, if it was a bar, it would have been smushed together. However, they would have added a number of preservatives that you can't pronounce with 15-letter names. Coloring would have been added, more sodium, and in many cases, high fructose corn syrup would have been added, more sugar. Okay, so that is in fact more dangerous for you, as convenient as it looks, and you grab a bar and it looks healthy and you're around with your bar. However, some nuts and some, whatever, dried fruit that you buy, it does the same thing for you and it's much more nutritious. And I mean, everybody wants a little salt, so you could buy, let's say you buy the salted peanuts, but the unsalted cashew nuts. So you get some salt going in there, but not a whole lot. So what we have to look at is eating whole foods, limiting our preserved foods. And if we are having preserved foods, again, like in the cold cuts, look at the low sodium options. They're a little bit more expensive. Look at the low sodium cheeses. And then if you have hypertension in the supermarket, you want to look, when you're looking at your food labels, you want to choose, if you are buying canned foods or you are buying packaged foods, you want to look, there are different manufacturers. So let's say you go to the store, there are 5 different brand names of canned beans. You want to look for the one that has the lowest sodium content. So even though you're using something out of a can, you still, getting the best one that you can get because it has a lower sodium content. However, in addition to that, you could look at buying frozen vegetables instead of canned vegetables because they're not soaking in the sodium water to preserve them. Okay, so that is another option. But along the way, we do have to watch our sodium because it's almost in everything.
Right.
So then we have to make healthy choices as we go along. It's in our salad dressing, it's in our ketchup and our mustard. So if you imagine along the way during the day, you're getting it in condiments and you're getting it in other little things. You open a packet of soy sauce, you buy Chinese food or whatever, you open a packet of soy sauce, or you're putting seasonings in your food. So we're getting it in little ways throughout the day. So what we want to do then is, in bigger things that we have control of, wherever we do have control, we want to look at lower sodium options. And
True.
that's the big thing with the hypertension, with managing it.
Well, let me ask you this. Okay, so a lot of people like the fact that low sodium, meaning sea salt, as
Mhm.
opposed to regular sodium salt. So,
Mhm.
like, how much of a difference is that?
So there is a difference because there are some salts that are actually manufactured and not natural. So again, you
Hmm.
want to stay away from that. And I think that's the big difference there. But
Hmm.
in terms of content of the sodium, it's still there and high. So you still want to, put a little, but not a lot.
Right. Of course. Of course. I'm not trying to go nowhere. That hot, that high salt intake is gonna, woo,
Hmm.
we don't need that. No, we don't need that. So let me ask you this. How do the people get in contact with you then?
So to get in contact with me, it's really easy. You can go to my website. It's www.betteryourliving. You can contact me there. There is the contact me tab. If you subscribe, I have some goodies for you on healthy living. That's the easiest way you can contact me through my website.
Do you have groups?
So I do groups. However, to keep them, I would give you the start date. So if you go onto my website also, you would be able to see when groups are starting for different things. So we have groups to manage chronic illnesses. I mean, I'm willing, if you have a group of friends, let's say you guys are, all new diabetics or just diabetics in general, or any other kind of chronic illness, whether it's the asthma that's in our community, it's the hypertension, and you want to do a group, just email me and we can get a group together, you and your friends. And it's really good to get some friends together, whether it's for a chronic illness or just for healthy living, because that way you have supports. We can create a Facebook group and we can just have supports. Again, you can find me on Facebook, again, Better Your Living, Jessica Phipps, Better Your Living on Facebook and Instagram. But it would be that much easier because you would have your support
Yes.
and you would be able to, accomplish your goal that much easier, psychologically easier because of having the support.
Yes. Okay. So you know what, you guys, she's very, very, you see how she's talking. Like we need to hear this. This is big sis moments here. Look, you better eat right so you can be here for a longer period of time, and we can live our lives and be happy and still be able to do the things that we weren't able to necessarily do now, but like in the future, like we want to like have the momentum and not be sitting there dragged down, and then when
Right.
everything is lifted, you can't go nowhere.
Right. And part of this is, they just spoke about the fact that communities of color are more susceptible to COVID-19. We're more susceptible because our immune systems are, are low. We haven't had it built up because we have these comorbidities that are, again, mostly the diabetes and the hypertension. There are more diabetics passing of kidney disease than any other population. And that was because we had uncontrolled comorbidities, the diabetes and the hypertension. So it all leads back to how we do things, to our lifestyle. So our lifestyle in many cases is what brought us to the diabetes and the hypertension. And then this is what made us susceptible to the COVID-19 to take us out of here, And with all of that, again, watching our weight, watching our cholesterol, just understanding what does it mean to eat right and to do, and to do exercise. Exercise, I know we haven't touched on exercise, but it is so important to keep our bodies moving. It is so important to keep the blood circulating, so to speak. Really important. Exercise controls blood sugar, exercise controls cholesterol, it helps with hypertension, and it's not a lot. And I always like to emphasize that, in many cases we think, oh, I have to have money to eat well, to buy organic, or I have to have money to exercise, I have to get a gym membership. No, it's not about all of that, okay? You want to exercise, you want to walk more, you're at work, lunchtime, walk the parking lot if there's a parking lot, okay? You go to the mall, you go shopping, you go to the food store, because maybe right now we're not doing that much out, park your car to the further end of the lot and walk back and forth. You know what I mean? So you're getting your steps in. Worth everything on your phone, more than likely, your smartphone, there is an app for your steps. You know, it's big goal is 10,000 steps a day. Okay. You don't have to be there. Set 5,000, then set 8,000 and move up. But, you know, if you have to do like, you know, I do counseling with older diabetics. And I said, you know, walk the stairs in your house, whether it's going down to the basement and coming back up, wherever you have stairs. You know, if you're in a ranch, you don't go downstairs. If you're, you know, bi-level, just walk the stairs 6 times constantly. That's enough to give you exercise and build your heart rate from going up the stairs. And it's the same thing with us. We can do stretches right where we are in our room, in your living room. There is enough free on YouTube, free exercises, you know, that you can, you know, turn on and you can do, look at on your television or look at on your phone. There is enough. We don't have to get fancy with it. You don't have to get special shoes and, you know, special clothes and yoga pants and all of that. Just comfortable clothing to do the things that you want to do. And there is enough free guidance out there. The only other thing I would caution you is always speak to your physician before you start any kind of rigorous exercise. You know, you're doing the walking, which is, you know, regular with activities of daily living, no problem. But if you're going to start any kind of aerobic exercises or anything more than that, get the advice of your physician as to how much you could do and how much they would limit you doing. But, you know, other than that, it's recommended 3 times a week, at least 3 times a week, 30 minutes. But that is so important to us keeping healthy. It's about food. It's about, if you have a chronic illness, about diet, medication, and exercise. And if you're healthy and you're not taking medication, you're just taking some supplements over the counter, it's about food and exercise. And when it comes to food, it's about your choices and portion control. And we always have enough to make good choices. It's about the choices we make, not what's set in front of us. It's about the choices we make when we go to the supermarket.
Right. No, certainly, certainly, certainly. Okay. So I knew you have it to where um, people can ask their doctors in regards to certain tests so that they can be aware of if they have hypertension.
Okay, so with hypertension, basically it is blood pressure. They're looking at your blood pressure. Mm-hmm. So you're looking at elevated blood pressure for certain amount of time within a certain time frame of a certain amount. So they're looking at 130 over 80, you know, anything higher than that for a sustained period of time as being diagnosed with hypertension. So with hypertension that leads to chronic kidney disease, there are tests to test for chronic kidney disease. There is a protein test, the protein in the urine, as well as there is a blood test for your creatinine. Serum creatinine. And those are the 2 tests that physicians do. So, you know, usually you want to advocate when you go to your doctor for your annual checkup. And that's another thing. There are a lot of us, you know, we talk about access to healthcare. Most of us have access to healthcare. There are some people who are caught in the middle, but for those who are not, most are not. So we either have jobs, or if we don't have jobs, we have Medicaid. Okay. Mm-hmm. So even with the Medicaid population or the people who have jobs and have group employer health plans, you do get your annual checkup where there is no copay. And if you have Medicaid, you never have a copay. Okay, it's always free. So get your annual checkup. And when you go and you're doing your lab work, tell them you want them to test for kidney disease. And they would know what to test. They would test for your creatinine if you're doing the blood work. They would test the numbers for your creatinine, and then you want to look at it. Now, African Americans are so predominantly, disproportionately diagnosed with chronic kidney disease that on your blood work, there is a level for non-African Americans and African Americans. On the blood work, it has race. It's divided by race. Okay, there have been some issues with that and the diagnosis and the fact that maybe this is the reason why we are being diagnosed later because of the difference in the values, because our value has to be that much higher for us to be diagnosed with chronic kidney disease. But moving away from that, you want to look at that. Once it's higher than 59, lower than 59, you have kidney disease. When you're born, you have 100% kidney function. Everything is working well. And as you age, just as a matter of being alive and aging, kidney function decreases. So most people 60 and under are predisposed to having less kidney function than a younger person. However, if with diabetics and hypertensives, if you are, always check your GFR. It's your glomerular filtration rate. It's the rate at which your kidneys, what percentage your kidneys is actually filtering the wastes out of your body. So you want to know your GFR. It's one of the numbers you should know. So the same way you know your glucose, or you know your blood pressure number, or you know your cholesterol number, you want to know your GFR. Now, one of the other things is we go and we do lab work, the doctor gets it. Some cases we don't ask for a copy, or the copy is online and we don't look at it. And we are then having the doctor say, oh, I looked at it and everything is okay. But it doesn't start and stop there, okay? We need to look at it. We need to look at those ranges. And it's really easy to read, because you can see when you look at your blood work, let's say your phosphorus is supposed to be at 3.5. If it's higher, it's going to put it in the high column and tell you it's like high out of range. Or if it's lower, it's going to tell you it's low out of range, when they give you the range for what it should, what each value, each lab value should be. It tells you the range, and it also tells you whether yours is high or whether yours is low. So we need to look at those things, not have our doctors, our physicians judge for us what is okay. Mm-hmm. The other thing we also see, if we look at our blood work over time, is we can see the way it's trending. So something might be within range, but it might be to the higher range. So let's say the range for something is 2 to 5, okay, is the range. And we're at 4.8. We're still within range. But if we look back at previous blood work, we might have been able to see when we were at 1.5, we were made low, or we were at 2, we were at 2.3, we were at, 3.8, and we could have seen ourselves creeping up in the ranges. We have to look at the trending. Really important, because there you would have been seeing that something is going wrong. Why is this creeping up even though it's within range? Why isn't it staying in the middle of the road there? Okay, right. So we have to look at these things and ask questions. Ask questions. We have to make our health a priority. But bigger than that, we have to know how to make it a priority. And we make it a priority by educating ourselves about our illness. The same way we can Google everything else. Not everything on the internet is correct, you know what I mean? But we still need to be able to go to our physician and ask these questions. What does this mean? How is this affecting my illness? Or will this affect me and create a particular illness in the future when you look at your trending? So really important to get a hold of your lab work. I mean, if you go to any of these LabCorps or Quests, it's in your account. If you go to the same place, it's all, and the other good thing too is to go to the same lab facility. So you have a history there. So you could look back in your electronic file there and see it. But if this time you go to LabCorp, the other time you go to Quest, or you go to neighborhood, labs, you won't have all your labs together unless you're collecting them. Mm-hmm. You won't have them all together, and it'll be more difficult for you to see your trending over time, which is really important.
Very true. Wow. That's a lot of information, girlfriend. It's important, and we got to take a lot more of responsibility for our actual health, because like she said, you don't want them telling you that everything's okay, and then after a while you don't get any information until you're at a point to where it's almost too late.
Right. I mean, I've seen it in many cases, because I've done a lot of counseling out of physicians' offices. And what I've seen is I've seen individuals who are diabetic, for instance. Diabetes, one of the leading causes of kidney disease. And they end up in the kidney doctor, the nephrologist office, maybe within 6 months of starting dialysis. And then they would meet me because I'm going to help them with their self-management, doing education with them, and helping them to choose their dialysis modality. And they were like, but I never knew I had kidney disease. Because I always went to my doctor. He never told me this. All of a sudden, this happened to me. I said, well, actually, no, it would have happened over years. And, some of them I would say, you have all your old lab work. He said, yeah, I keep because my doctor gives it to me, or I pick it up from the lab and take it to my doctor back in the day. And they would bring it in to me. And then I would show them, I said, you see, look, this one was from 6 years ago. You had kidney disease back here. You see? And I
You
said,
don't
it's
have
getting worse. It's getting worse.
I think,
And it's right there in your lab work.
right.
However, a lot of what we see is the primary care physicians are not referring to specialists in a timely manner. I've seen individuals who they have been diabetic for years and their primary care physician has been managing their diabetes, or their primary care physician has been managing their hypertension. A nephrologist or a kidney doctor is a hypertension specialist. That is who manages hypertension. Okay.
Mm.
But most of us have our primary care physicians managing our hypertension and our diabetes. The diabetes, you need to go see an endocrinologist. Even if of course, you're going to stick with your primary because you have to have a primary, but at least an annual consult or a 6-month consult. But at least have a consult with a nephrologist if you're a hypertensive, have a consult with an endocrinologist, and more importantly, see a dietitian. That is a lot of times is the missing link with it, because we see individuals who have been seeing their physicians for a long period of time, but they never refer them to a dietitian to actually tweak their diet. And they say, well, you're doing all right. You're doing all right. Yeah, you manage your carbs, don't take too much sugar, you're gonna be all right, just eat 6 grapes at a time, things like that, half a banana, but in order for people to be compliant, they need to see the dietitian who is going to tell them, listen, this is not about cheating. If this is your favorite meal, let me give you a recipe that I've reworked as a dietitian for you to have that pineapple upside down cake, or for you to, as much as you want, for you to have something else that you enjoy. Now, that's another thing that dietitians do. So as many people would think, okay, because I'm diabetic or because I'm hypertensive, I cannot have this anymore. You get a hold of a good dietitian, they would rework that recipe for you.
Oh,
Okay.
that's right.
And they would tell you, okay, so not only this is the portion, but these are the ingredients that you are going to use differently in order to give you some of the same taste with the spices and stuff like that. This is how you make low carb mac and cheese. They can do all of these things. Right. They can do all of these things. Mm-hmm.
See, and that's the good part, because like now you know that you have a specialist, you have someone in your corner that's helping you with what you're supposed to eat. And let me ask you this, because now that I'm thinking about it, I think it's really, really important if we were to find out, is there possibly a dietitian program that may have like what you can eat and when. I think we were talking about that, how
Right.
what you can eat and when, and what
Right.
times and days.
Right. So in many cases, that is personalized. I always feel when it comes to food, there is no one size fits all where a dietitian is going to lay out, this is how it goes. Individuals need to do individual consultation with a dietitian. As I always said, when you go to a dietitian, it's not about the dietitian telling you these are the things to avoid and these are the things to limit. Okay. And these are the portions for them. You go to the dietitian with the approach, this is what I enjoy. Okay, because our food has to be culturally specific, because we want to thrive. We don't want to feel disadvantaged. We don't want to feel that, oh, now I'm diabetic and I can't enjoy the things I enjoyed before. Because remember, food has a lot to do with just with satisfaction in life, okay?
Yeah.
Has a lot to do with us emotionally. And if you're not eating well, you're not happy. So you want to go to the dietitian. We're saying, this is what I like to have for breakfast. This is what I like to have for lunch. And this is what I like to have for dinner. This is what my family has on the holidays. Okay, so work that for me. How do we then prepare this in a more diabetic friendly manner or low sodium manner? What changes do we have to make? What are the things then, if we're doing this, that I would may still need to avoid or limit? That is the approach. Not the approach where you get a long list and say, don't eat this and limit. You know, a little bit of different approach. Have the dietitian work for you. And now remember, just the same way you have a physician's visit as part of your health plan, the dietitian is right in there. You know that, but we don't use it. The social worker, who is to help you with adjustment to illness, if you have a new diagnosis or you're coping with something, a new diagnosis change, or just coping with preventative health, you can see a social worker who would help you with that. However, it's just not one of the things we're accustomed to doing for our health. So we have to shift the paradigm and think, not only do I have to see a doctor, but I need to see a dietitian and I need to see a social worker. Okay, I'm a social worker and health coach. All right, so you need to see a social worker who will then also help you with adjusting to this, but also help you with habit change and with the mental health stress that goes along with this. And remember, it's not only stress on you, but it's stress on the family. If it's a husband, now the wife has to learn all this new stuff, like, oh my God, my husband is diabetic now, and I have to cook different, because most times she would be the preparer of the meals. Or if he says now, well, listen, I'm a busy woman and you know it, I'll continue to prepare meals for the family and then you could prepare your meals. Poor guy, now he's like, oh, I never like really prepared my meals before. Now I'm left. Now I have to do this, and now I have to shop differently, and all this sorts of stuff. So there's a lot of, you know, stress around it. A lot of emotional stability is needed to be regained once that happens. So we also have to not stigmatize mental health, embrace it as part of our daily living.
Yeah.
And see the social worker, see the counselor, see the health coach to make it happen. You know, we tend to wonder, how do other populations thrive? And I would talk to friends who are not African American. It's like, oh, I saw my therapist, or my therapist told me this. And they just have a therapist going their whole life, right? Because they have now that person who they're able to bounce things off of that is non-biased, middle of the road, to get advice, to get counseling, to get support, to just be able to vent to, which is a big thing. Okay?
We all need it some type of way.
We need to begin to take advantage of that.
Yes.
We have left that money on the table, like with the dietitian. We are leaving that money on the table and not taking advantage of it. We are leaving the money on the table when we're not going to see our primary care physician, and, you know, following up with our lab work and with all the advantages that our health insurance plans. We actually underutilize our plan. Yeah, so, you know, in many cases, yes, we are disproportionately affected, but when we ask ourselves why, we also have some changing, a certain percentage of habit change that we need to inculcate in our lives.
No, that's for sure. Girlfriend, I'm telling you, I love talking to you. I learned new stuff and new ways of doing things every time I talk to you. And I'm only hoping everybody gets a chance to take these things in as well, because this is so important to your livelihood. This is so important. You want to be around for them kids, them grandkids, everybody else. So, you know, now you can't blame it on the kids anymore. You can't blame it on the husband anymore. You gotta really, or the wife anymore. You gotta take this initiative for yourself, so that you can be here for a long period of time, because we don't want you to go anywhere, you guys. We don't. So certainly I would say go to betteryourliving.com. That's www. And she has it to where as like you're gonna get her, you're gonna get a whole lot of good information that we definitely need, and we don't always talk about. But now is the time we need to talk more about them.
Mm-hmm.
Certain, because we're the ones that leaving, like she said, leaving it all on the table. We don't want to do that any longer. Thank you so much, Jessica.
Welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. And listen, follow me on Facebook and Instagram. On my Facebook, I put up a lot of different, broad spectrum health issues, whether it's rheumatoid arthritis, it's diabetes, mental health, just everything of interest that we need. And the thing is, when you're looking at this information, it's not only about you. Think about your family. We have to make our health multi-generational, okay? We have to look at the issues that we have and look at our children and make sure they don't have it. And if our parents are, developing it, we need to help them and be their health buddy and advocate for them also, okay?
And
Thank you again for having me. Really appreciate it. Love you. Love your audience. So follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Check out my website and contact me. I'll be willing to speak with you.
certainly, thank you so much, dear heart. We appreciate you, my Mayan tribe. We love her. We love her to pieces. She's given us everything that we need to kind of go forth and do good and do better and feel better. So we definitely do not want to just not take advantage and full advantage of the information that we're getting from her, because she is she's an advocate for these things for us, okay, for the people that may have a lot of chronic illnesses and different things like that. So we definitely don't want you to go there. We don't,
Mhm.
but we know someone that is already there. So you definitely want to more than likely be aware of your situation so you can be more aware for them as well. So we appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining me, Lady Myya, and I hope you guys have a most wonderful day.